everybody, it's Dean. Welcome to Bring Back Rock. If you're familiar with the channel, you probably know that I had underrated albums from 1982, 1983, another one video from 1984, and then one from 1985. I always ask you to comment and tell me what I got right, what I got wrong. A lot of you did, and that's awesome. And it gave me the idea that I should probably do a video that includes the viewer-suggested underrated albums from 1982 through 1984. 1985 had quite a bit I should not have forgotten, so that'll get its own video down the road. Some of these surprised me, and some of them, like I said, kicked myself for leaving off. So let's get to viewer-suggested underrated albums from 1982 through 1984. Alright, so the first album we're going to talk about is the band Heaven, and the album is Bent, which came out in 1982. They're an Australian band. In 1983, they also released an album called Where Angels Dare to Tread. Now, Bent to me sounded more, maybe a little more metal, and Where Angels Fear to Tread sounded a little more classic Aussie pub rock, kind of that, Angel City, Rose Tattoo, and of course AC/DC type sound. So Heaven, Bent in 1982, and Where Angels Fear to Tread in 1983, underrated albums. The next one I had was, one of you guys had suggested Zeba's self-titled album from 1983. Now, not quite as sure how underrated. It did go gold. It did have a couple singles that charted. It went to number 29 on the album charts on the strength of singles Tell Me What You Want and Who's Behind the Door. At the time, it was Atlantic's fastest selling debut album. They didn't really follow up that success. The next album that came out was the following year in 84, No Telling Lies, which only went to 84 on the album charts. So Zeba wasn't really quite able to maintain that success from their debut album, but they're definitely an underrated band that people really don't talk enough about. So the next one you guys mentioned, and it's one that I should have had on the list, was a Canadian band called Helix. Now, I knew who Helix was, but I wasn't really into them back in the day. I saw some of the videos, but I didn't really have friends that listened to them, so I wasn't super familiar. I had an acquaintance I had in high school named Joseph, and talked to him at one of my high school reunions, probably the 5-year, and loved the same music, so we started exchanging music, hanging out, went to some concerts. Rest in peace, Joseph. But one of the albums he gave me was Over 60 Minutes with Helix, which if you're looking to get into Helix, that's a great place to start. But I listened to it and I said, oh my God, this stuff is great. I could have been listening to this band for the last 10 years. So Helix released in 1983 No Rest for the Wicked, which went to 186 on the US charts. It did go gold in Canada. It had songs like White Lace and Black Leather, No Rest for the Wicked, Heavy Metal Love. Really a great album. And in 1984, they followed it up with Walking the Razor's Edge. Had even more success in the US, went to 69 on the album charts. And even more success in Canada, went to 27 and went platinum in the Great White North. So underrated songs there were songs off that album were like Rock You, Animal House, You Keep Me Rockin'. If you're not into Helix, give them a shot, because they're really good and definitely underrated. Who do we got next here? All right, a band that I missed in my 1982 episode is the Bees, B''ZZ. They had an album, Get Up, which is just a good rock and roll album. I did mention them in the 1985 episode because Tom Holland, after the Bees, formed his own band, Holland. And I talk about that album in the 1985 video. So the Bees, Get Up, great album. Also had Steve Riley from LA Guns and Wasp playing drums on that record. You guys mentioned Europe, Wings of Tomorrow, their second album, which did not chart in the US, so it's an underrated album. It's not my favorite Europe album, but it's one of yours. So Europe, Wings of Tomorrow came out in 1984. All right. Also 1984, I forgot to mention, and in the next video I did make up for it because it was a crime I forgot it. 1984, Y&T released In Rock We Trust. I believe Brian was the one who called me out on that one. Great album. I talk about it more in the 1985 video, so if you want my thoughts on that, go check that out. You guys also mentioned another Canadian band, the band Kick Axe, and the album Vices, which is a really good album and I used to get Axe and Kick Axe confused, but Kick Axe Vice's really good album. Only went to 126 on the US charts. It did do better in Canada, going to number 66 and going gold in their home country. So Kick Axe Vices is an underrated album. All right, the next band to talk about is White Sister. They released their self-titled debut in 1984. Now, I had only recently discovered the band. I did not do a deep dive into them because I listened to like one song, listened to the album, and liked it enough that I put it in my Amazon wish list. So eventually I'll be getting that album, but do not own it yet. But White Sister's debut album came out in 1984. It's produced by Greg Giuffria from Angel and Giuffria, obviously, and which became House of Lords. So Greg Giuffria produced that one. They had a second album out also called Fashion by Passion, and they had two albums in movies. They had one that was in the movie Thrashin', which starred Josh Brolin, and Dancing on Midnight off their second album was in Halloween 5, The Curse of Michael Myers. So I've obviously heard White Sister, at least one of their songs, a number of times, quite a few times actually, and didn't even know it. So White Sister's self-titled debut album in 1984 was underrated. The one other thing I forgot to do in 1984 was talk about some of the classic metal albums that were released in 84. Judas Priest, Defenders of the Faith, Iron Maiden, Powerslave, Metallica, Ride the Lightning. Dio had The Last in Line come out, and that was the year after Holy Diver came out. And then one album that you guys mentioned as underrated was Merciful Fate, Don't Break the Oath. If you like Merciful Fate or not, probably depends on if you like King Diamond's vocals with that high falsetto. Definitely an underrated album. Definitely an influential album, really, especially in the black metal bands to come. So Merciful Fate, Don't Break the Oath, another underrated album in 1984. So all right, those are some of your underrated albums from 1982, 83, and 84. I really do appreciate you guys putting the comments in and letting me know which ones I got right, which ones I got wrong. I know a lot of you agreed with what I had, but then, what about this band? What about that band? Which was pretty cool, and it was kind of nice to share some of your viewer underrated albums from 82 through 84. I'll be doing 85 next probably because there was a lot of albums and a lot that I should not have left off. So 85 will be coming, and then of course I'll be doing my underrated albums from 86 soon. So I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks again, and I will catch you on the next episode.